ever wondered what happens after we die? Do we simply cease to exist, or is there something more? Well, today's video is all about uncovering the fascinating mythology and history behind Anubis and the afterlife. Welcome to our channel, where we explore some of the world's most intriguing and mysterious topics. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. In this video, we'll dive deep into the mythology and history surrounding Anubis and his connection to the afterlife. We'll explore the beliefs of the ancient Egyptians and how they prepared for the journey to the underworld. Plus, we'll uncover some surprising facts about Anubis that you may not have known before. Did you know that Anubis, the ancient Egyptian god of the afterlife, went by many names? Before the Greeks gave him the name Anubis, he was known as Anpu or Inpu, which mean a royal child and decay, respectively. And that's not all. This multi-talented god was also called the first of the Westerners, the lord of the sacred land, and even the dog who swallows millions. And let's not forget his impressive titles like he who is upon his mountain and foremost of the divine booth. Clearly, Anubis held some pretty important positions in the afterlife hierarchy. Anubis wasn't just a one-trick god. He played multiple roles in ancient Egyptian mythology. From embalming to protecting cemeteries, Anubis was a busy deity as early as the First Dynasty. But his most significant job was guiding souls into the afterlife and presiding over the weighing of the heart, where a soul's fate was determined. And while he may not have had any exciting myths surrounding him, Anubis remains one of the most frequently discussed and depicted gods in the Egyptian pantheon. Anubis was more than just a god with a jackal's head. He was also strongly associated with the color black, which represented rebirth, life, and the muddy waters of the Nile River. It was also the color of the skin after embalming. Interestingly, Anubis had a canine counterpart in his brother Wepawat, who had a dog's head but white or gray fur. Over time, these two deities were thought to merge into one. And let's not forget about Anput, Anubis's female counterpart, and his daughter, the serpent goddess Kebeshe. With such a rich and diverse mythology surrounding him, it's no wonder Anubis remains one of the most intriguing figures in ancient Egyptian history. Depending on the tale, the era, and the source, Anubis had different parents. He was portrayed as Ra's child in early mythology. Anubis is described as the son of either the cat-headed Bastet or the cow goddess He in the coffin text, which were composed during the first intermediate period. He was portrayed in a different tradition as being the child of Ra and Nephilis. Anubis was allegedly the illegitimate center of the religion Sinopolis, which translates to City of Dogs, a fitting name considering Anubis's jackal form. But the worship of Hermanubis didn't stop there. Evidence suggests that this deity was still being worshipped in Rome at least until the 2nd century, and references to Hermanubis can even be found in the alchemical and hermetic literature of the Middle Ages and Renaissance. Talk about a god with staying power. Even though the Greeks and the Romans thought Egyptian gods with animal heads were a bit bizarre and old-fashioned, that didn't stop Anubis from making some impressive connections in their cultures. He was occasionally linked to Sirius in the heavens, as well as Cerberus and Hades in the underworld. In fact, Plato himself frequently referenced Anubis in his dialogues, having Socrates swear by the dog of Egypt, and the god of the Egyptians to emphasize a point or make an appeal to Anubis as the judge of truth in the underworld. It's pretty remarkable that Anubis managed to transcend cultural boundaries and continue to inspire and influence for centuries to come. All ancient people believed that there was much mystery in the world. The majority of what they noticed in the environment around them was frightening and unknowable. The gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt served as representations of many elements of their supernatural and natural surroundings, aiding the Egyptians in comprehending their numerous facets. Demon lore has always fascinated us humans, and for good reason. These truths, if your heart was deemed too heavy due to evil deeds in life, Ammit would devour it, effectively disqualifying you from the afterlife. Another significant demon was Apepi, also known as Apophis, a giant snake who was the adversary of the sun god during the daily journey through the cosmos. It's no wonder that Egyptian mythology continues to enthrall us today with its fascinating and terrifying demons. Though Anubis wasn't just a pretty face with a jackal head, he had some pretty important responsibilities in ancient Egyptian society. As the guardian of the tomb, Anubis made sure that the dead were protected and guided their souls into the afterlife. But that's not all. According to the myth of Osiris, Anubis even helped Isis embalm her husband, which is why the monks who worked during the mummification process would wear jackal-faced masks. And did you know that after Set killed Osiris, Anubis also received his organs as a gift? It became customary to present Anubis with some of the deceased body parts as well. Real-life jackals were known to dig up corpses and eat them, but the ancient Egyptians found a way to transform this harmful energy into a beneficial one by creating the god of embalming and cemetery guardianship in the form of Anubis. It just goes to show that even the most mundane or gruesome aspects of life can be transformed into something sacred and meaningful with the right perspective. While many Egyptian deities were depicted as human-like figures, some of them had much more unique appearances. Take Shu of the air, Geb of the soil, the fertility god Min, and the artist Ta, for example. These ancient cosmic figures were all portrayed solely as humans, but then there were the minor deities who really went all out with their appearances. Take Bez, for instance. This dwarf god had a mask-like face that was pretty unforgettable. And then there's Tart, a goddess who was a true force to be reckoned with. With the physical characteristics of both a hippopotamus and a crocodile, she was definitely not your average deity. It just goes to show that in the world of ancient Egyptian mythology, anything was possible when it came to the divine realm. Imagine how horrified the ancient Egyptians would have been to find that jackals had emptied shallow tombs in the desert and eaten their loved ones' remains. To the Egyptians, this was a fate worse than death itself. They believed that the body needed to be preserved in order for the soul to enter the afterlife. To ensure the protection of their loved ones' bodies, people would pray to and offer gifts to the jackal god Anubis. As a result, Anubis became known as the revered god of the underworld, with the jackal coming to symbolize the deceased. It's fascinating how ancient people found ways to personify and make sense of the natural world, even in the face of something as terrifying as death and decay. The ancient Egyptians had some pretty luxurious plans in the afterlife, complete with all the valuable goods and items a person could want. Powerful individuals would be buried with their most prized possessions, which they believed they would need in the afterlife. However, the value of these relics would also catch the eye of robbers looking for a quick way to improve their own lifestyles. It just goes to show that even in ancient times, people were willing to risk everything for the pursuit of wealth and a better life, even if it meant deifying the gods and their sacred beliefs about death and the afterlife. As the saying goes, out with the old, in with the new, right? Well, that was certainly the case with the ancient Egyptian gods. While Osiris gained popularity and ultimately took over as the Lord of the Dead, Anubis was far from forgotten. In fact, he continued to play a crucial role in the mythology surrounding death and the afterlife. Anubis was even credited with inventing the technique of mummification, which allowed people to achieve eternal life in the afterworld. And when it came time to judge the worth of a soul, Anubis was the one in charge, using the scales of justice alongside the moon deity Thoth to weigh a person's heart and determine whether they were worthy of entering the afterlife. If you're as intrigued by mythology and history as we are, be sure to smash the like button and hit subscribe so you never miss out on our latest videos. We've got tons more mind-blowing insights and hidden secrets waiting for you, so don't forget to turn on those notifications too. Thanks for tuning in. We can't wait to share more with you next time.